He's playing for Basilisk Gaming, defending the honor of the Americas. It's Trigger. Upper left in the blue from Korea, peaking once again this time of year. His name for Mystery Gaming is Bunny. There's been a lot of talk about TvP ever since the patch about how it's not unwinnable, but not good. Not easy, not comfortable. Where, for the most part, Terran pushes are strong. It's not as bad as it was, but Terran late game feels really hard for Protoss players to deal with. You add in Liberators, they have Liberator zones. You get up to 12 of them. Good luck fighting into it. So, it's gonna be interesting. We have started to see Protoss players play into that more. We've seen a lot more gateway styles. In my mind, I'm going to attribute that to Firefly, who unfortunately who should be at Katowice. He's not going to be at Atlanta, which is unfortunate. It's not ESL's fault, but it's just the truth of things. As Bunny, look at what he did there with the SCV. He hit it. He didn't want to get seen by the pylon, by anything, so he wanted to be able to get this bunker down. But now Trigger's aware, so he's going to pull a couple probes, try to get on top of this SCV. And where's our Reaper? Only about halfway onto the other side of the map. You need 11 shots from a probe to kill the SCV, but it seems like, yeah, this is going to get denied. The Reaper's here, but there's an Adept already out. The bunker's not going to complete. So Reaper takes damage. Shade's in a great spot, and you can tell that Trigger's just in. He's feeling himself today. I'm not trying to build hype where their hype doesn't exist. But Trigger's doing the small things right. He saw the bunker immediately. He pulled 2 probes to make sure it didn't get across. He's got the Adept on the high ground, of course, but the Shade on the low ground also being actively microed to make sure that it tracks wherever the Reaper goes to deny any potential damage. He's putting himself in a pretty solid spot. Or more that he just hasn't taken any damage, but especially hot on the heels of 2-0 in Creator, we can tell that he ate his Wheaties this morning, or this afternoon, because this is getting played at right around 8 o'clock his time. I want to say Trigger's in the East Coast Canadian area, but regardless, whatever it is, he's looking solid. Now, Bunny, of course, when we think about Bunny, we think of pushes. We think of aggression. Maybe not the weirdness of special, but we think of Bunny hitting 3 racks timings, 5 racks timings, crazier things even faster sometimes. He's not in my head as just stock standard late game macro Terran. That's not what I think of he's good at, but he has incredible micro. He's got crazy builds. I know I just said he didn't, but then I remembered, the proxy Thor build versus Zest, for example, as Reaper and Hellion are going to try to dive in here. Get as much as they can. It's only a single stalker, so this actually is a decent amount of damage potential. Trigger has to pull probes away. Will lose 2, should lose 3, and the nice probe pull means that's going to minimize it, but that's 3 dead probes for a Reaper and a Hellion that really were built to scout anyways. So Bunny did a great job of identifying that Trigger really was cutting corners. Not a lot of units on the map. 330 third base, pretty much as quick as you can get it. And yeah, he's got Blink on the way, but it's not done yet. He's only on 2 gateway, he's only on 2 gateways. So I don't know that calling it 2-gate Blink greedy is fair necessarily, but this is certainly one of the greedier builds that you can go for. Or more macro focused openers. The Widowmine drop's going to try to show up in the main base, but the Stalkers are well positioned on the bait. This medevac takes a lot of damage. Now, unfortunately, it's not quite to prevent things, so probes have to get pulled here, and it will deny some mining. Widowmine goes off on the first one. It will die. Second one is denying a lot of mining time, but even still, it's only 2 dead probes. And if Bunny hadn't gone and killed 3 probes earlier on, we would say that Bunny was in a horrible spot. Well, not even a horrible spot, just not getting what he needed. But because he got that a little bit earlier, Bunny, he's doing fine for himself. +1 on the way, Stim on the way, adding in Marauders, a 3rd barracks. Everything's going as we would expect out of the Terran player, lining up for that nice 6:30-ish, 7:30-ish type of Stim timing, where Stim's going to be done at 6:30. But generally, you don't go off the 6:30 Stim, you go off the Tech Lab, you go off the Combat Shield, you go off the Concussive Shell. So I love the stock positioning. This is so good. He's going to get the medevac. Only 3 Marines get out, and now, well, they're just going to die anyways. We talked about Bunny and maybe being in a good spot or not, finding value or not. Well, he just lost his drop. He just lost 10 supply right there. He lost really a lot of potential on the map. And yeah, there's this Raven on the bottom side. And Trigger's gonna lose 2 probes. That, oh, one gets stuck a little bit, didn't mineral walk. And into the, oh well, this actually doesn't have energy for an auto turret, so it's gonna be the 2 probes. That's gonna be about it. But it's also a big scout. He sees everything that's happening in the main base, sees the extra gateways going down, upgrade on the robo base. So Bunny knows what's happening, and he knows he really doesn't have to worry about all that much. But these 4 Blink Stalkers have gotten more than any set of 4 Blink Stalkers against any 2-gate Blink opener has in quite a while. Getting that medevac, getting those 8 Marines is such a big deal. Imagine that the last sequence of time where the Raven finds its way in on the left side. Bunny would have loved to put 8 Marines in the main base at the same time. That was the play. That's exactly what he was going for, timing that out like that. And instead, he turned it into a one-sided attack, at which point Trigger's going to be very okay with defending that. Maybe he could have lost 0 workers, but there's no pylon right here, so he didn't quite see it. Oh, unfortunate timing here. The Colossus is going to pull away as this army of, well, Bunny finds its way onto the 3rd base. So Trigger finds himself a little bit out of position. Workers will fall. I don't think this base dies. Widowmine's not really going to get a lot. It's going to kill Zealots that were already dead. So nice job there for Bunny, pulling Trigger out of position a little bit, but it's not a ton of damage as the army in the front. Here's where it gets dicey. But Trigger, he's equal on army supply. He's actually doing a really nice job. Zealots are going to try to get on top. The Widowmine target fire is very nice as the drop. Well, it will get targeted down, but these were 4 Marauders. The Stalkers die. So nice job there from Trigger catching it, but he will lose a decent amount of his army. Even still, though, he's taken paper cuts. He hasn't taken a death blow. He's not bleeding out by any stretch of the imagination. Pylon here, a probe or 2 there. It's 10 probes in total. But that's really fine for the most part. So now there's the 4th base on the way. Adding in that 3rd Colossus and Bunny. He's got this Widowmine drop on the left side. He's doing such a good job of multi-pronging. But again, Stalkers are where they need to be. They're not going to kill anything, I don't think, but they are going to buy time. More Zealots going to warp in. Widowmine drop on the left side. Not going to get anything. Maybe a couple Stalkers. That's going to be just about it. And this is not an Artosis pylon. It's going to get knocked down. That's nice. +1 is the big bounty, and that will fall. So finally, value getting found is, I think, one of the 6 Stalkers have died actually in that. So a little bit more awkward. I think one of the Stalkers died on the left side from the Widowmines, and then in the main base as well. So this is where Trigger is not as happy, because he's lacking on that +1 attack. His army won't be hitting nearly as hard as he would have liked. So this is where it gets a little bit dicey. But the addition of the Widow, or the cannon, the shield battery so early on is really nice. But the Colossus are under threat. One of them will fall as the Zealots were not ready for the counterattack. Not just yet. So many Marauders are low. Imagine those Zealots on the left side. Did they join the fight? Well, it's a totally different game. And we've been talking about paper cuts. Bunny is starting to really cut away. It's a 2,000 resources lost lead. He's really starting to trade better. His 3rd base is on location now. He's mining off of 3 bases. There's no 4th just yet. But he is starting to trade significantly better, and Trigger's having army where he needs to be, but he's not adding enough army where he needs to be, if that makes sense. But now finally he's on the map. These 5 Zealots, they don't have +1. They're not nearly as chunky as they might otherwise like to be. In fact, Trigger never rebuilt the forge. Yeah, never rebuilt the forge here. So the Zealots are getting damage, but it's not 10 SCVs like you would like. Oh, look, getting Vikings when you have Colossus on the field is always, oh, nice there. Hold position as well. So the rest of the Zealots will fall. It's not going to get more than 4 SCVs in a Viking, which is again damage, but I don't know that it's necessarily enough. Especially as one Colossus has been killed, has not been remade. Now we're at the point right now where the army supply is a little bit better in Bunny's favor. Again, he's just doing, oh no, never mind. These are SCVs. These are SCVs don't know what they're doing there. Bunny's got 1-1, 0 upgrades for Trigger. He's realized what he's missing, so it's double forge on the way. And remember, upgrades for the Terran player have been buffed recently, or excuse me, for the Protoss player in the most recent patch. You get them faster. You add Chrono on top of that one, and it's actually not that big of a deal here as the army's going to find Bunny up the ramp. It's a little bit awkward, but Blinks on top of the Medivacs, gets 1, 2, 3, and really EMPs don't hit him until the very end. So nice pick off there, Trigger, knocking down a lot of the ability as the observer that enabled this will all go down. Removes a lot of the mobility of Bunny from the map, especially as he's been building Vikings. He's only on 2 medevacs right now. That's not a lot of healing. That's not a lot of drop power. And that's going to buy Trigger a lot of time. It's going to give him maybe some room to go get a 5th base, buy time for his 1-1 to be done. And the interesting thing here, so he's on triple robo. As of right now, he's building an observer, but more importantly, he's building a lot of immortals. He was building them 2 at a time. And if we look at the composition here, out of Bunny's army, he's 50-50 Marauder Marine. That's a lot of Marauders. That's a significant Marauder count. And if Trigger can bring this army to bear, now that's a big if. This army can get kited, and if it takes the fight and loses, you lose the game. But if he can take a fight and get the Marauder spread, get them doing damage or get the Immortal spread, get them doing damage to Marauders like that, you can shred Terran armies, especially when 1-1 is done. And of course, with the Chrono going out, and this 1-1's going to be done pretty quickly. Stalkers in the main base. So Trigger, again, he's covering his bases a lot better than he was earlier. Now, one thing that Trigger would like, he'd like a 5th base. He would love a 5th base. And this observer just going undetected here, so Trigger knows where the army is. But as Bunny has taken his 4th base, if you're playing this Protoss style, you really want to be up a base. Just in general, you're not going to trade as well. But Trigger's maxed out pretty quickly. Right around the same time the Terran is. It has not been a game where he's really been down in supply and army supply all that much. In fact, he's up right now. So 1-1's done. 3 more Marauders are going to hit the field. And if he can take this fight, as finally there's that 5th base on the way, if he can take that fight with 9 Immortals, going on up to 11 Immortals here, if he can take this fight, this army is going to be extremely powerful. Now, he loses the 5th base. That's going to get canceled. Going to get canceled. But he's got a big enough army that he can take fights on both sides. That's a lot of Stalkers. And these Immortals on the left side, they're going to... A lot of Marauders were sent on the left side to knock the base down. That base killing army. And Trigger understands that, so he adds a lot of Immortals here. Colossus for a little bit of extra damage. And now he can bring his army to bear. Armies on the left and the right. We need to see this Widow Mine. It's gotten a lot of value. We'll get knocked down, but one more shot goes off. And now here comes Trigger. He's the one that wants to get aggressive. No flank set up for Bunny. Not just yet. The Vikings are here, but this army is not about... It is absolutely not about the Colossus anymore. It's about these Immortals and these Stalkers. Anti-armor missile for now is really nice. But these Immortals here, how strong are they going to fight? We got EMPs on everything. Stalkers on the right side. All the Vikings go down. And one Colossus is still here. But Trigger, that anti-armor missile is shredding him. It's annihilating him. But there's a Warp Prism. Maybe he can save something. Hot picks up the Immortals, but they're all going to go down. It's not a good fight. He didn't have Warp Instant into the army. He didn't have Zealots joining the fight. He was down an upgrade. A bit of an anti-timing. If he was warp, how many gateways does he have? He's on 10 gateways. So if he had 10 Zealots warping into that fight, maybe coming in from an angle, maybe that's enough. The problem with this army is that we talked about you lose the fight, you lose the game. This is an army that Trigger has been building for the last 5 minutes. 10 minutes, well, longer than that even. He has really been working on developing this one-punch army. He's been doing 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, running a 10K every single day to make sure that he has 13 Immortals when that attack hit. By the way, he's on 3 Warp Prisms. I think that might be a little bit too much. 2 Warp Prisms, fine. You have 1 for harass, 1 for army supply. Maybe 3's okay, actually, if you think about it. You have 1 for micro, 1 for reinforcements, and then 1 for warp, 1 for harass. Maybe. But for now, again, this is dicey. We're not at Liberator range, so they're not quite as oppressive as they might otherwise be. Disruptor Shot is really nice. And DTs are starting to find their way on in. Stalkers, they're going to blink on top of the Liberators right now. 1 goes down, second one. But again, there are more where that came from. Stalkers, though, there's going to be enough for now, and Trigger will hold on to this fight. All the Liberators go down, and it's so important to shut down the Liberator count. When we talk about fights like this, the Zealots, by the way, get on top of the bio, and this DT, that extra little bit of damage is actually doing quite a bit. Wouldn't mind damage to the Warp Prism, but now DTs find their way in. There's the missile turret, so it's not going to be incredible. Trigger's got his 5th base. So too does Bunny. But I think this base goes down. There's enough Stalkers right here, and yeah, so it's a dead base for Bunny. 3 Colossus, a couple Immortals, and we cannot understate just how powerful those Immortals are in terms of taking down Marauders, but also taking down planetaries. Man, this Bunny loves this Widow Mine in the middle of the map. It's actually insane how much it's gotten. It got a warp prism. It's insane how much, not that single Widow Mine, because one is the second one that's died in that spot, but it's insane how much value that placement has gotten. And what I think is interesting here is he's added 3-4 High Templar to the army. So part of it is that he understood how much value the Raven got, but the Raven's dead now. So I assume, because we don't have Storm, I'm assuming here that this is just for mass feedback on the Ghosts and the Medivacs, which is an interesting idea. You feedback all the Ghosts and the Medivacs, you turn them into Archons. Maybe that's worthwhile. I don't know. It's an interesting idea. But for now, something died on the right side. I'm going to assume an observer, but Trigger now knows where the army is. That being said, freedom reigns. Justice reigns from above here as DT's on the north side. Trigger recalled back to his base, but yeah, DTs are not going to get this, and there's no recall out of him now, so it's buying time, but that's a lot of DTs to lose. 8 dead Dark Templar. Trigger now. Moving on to this spot. It's a little bit more sparsely defended. You got to be careful though. As I'm gonna get the sensor tower maybe, but the Liberator range is still not done. But you have to, again, there are just so many Liberators. It's 10 Liberators on the map right now, and this is where life gets hard. We talked about it at the start of this game. This is why PvT is difficult. It's not the early game, although again, Bunny has been trading a decent bit better. It's about the fact that once you get to 10-12 Liberators, you get +2 on them. You add in Ghost DMPs. This is not a good spot to warp in. That warp prism will fall. Once you add that in, it's really hard to deal with this. But I like this idea of adding Storm. Now, where are we at on our warp prism count? We have 1. It's on the right side for warp ins. It might be interesting, because we're going to see the sensor tower take some damage. It might be interesting for Trigger to go and add an additional warp prism just for the High Templar, so he can drop Storms on top of the Liberators. They do tend to clump when you siege them. As Disruptor shots gonna off, a couple Widow Mines trading away. Meanwhile, left side army here, but again, big EMPs in the Widow Mine. Oh, gets High Templar, gets a lot of Stalkers there. Trigger's not going to be happy with that fight at all, but the Colossus stands strong for now, but he's not microing it back, so the Colossus will fall. And I don't know what else he was looking at, because the army on the right side wasn't fighting either. So he loses a Colossus. It's not great. And he's on 6 bases. So he is up 1 base on Bunny. That is absolutely something. He's got 3/3 Bunnies on only +2. That's the other problem. He's adding in shields. And the Liberator problem is unsolved. 11 Liberators going up to 14. And at this point, you're running into this issue where you just cannot take the fight. The Liberators, they siege up too quickly, they reposition too quickly, so you got to find a way to just bounce the Terran around the map. But on a map like Hard Lead, how do you do so? And there are very few pushing lanes, although these Liberators are a little bit exposed. That's going to be nice if he decides to jump. I guess he doesn't. And instead, he's going to lose Stalkers as well. So a little bit of indecision here coming out of Trigger. And now he's going to... you need to make a decision, Trigger. You got to do something. You can't lose bases for nothing here. He's going to get 1 Liberator. Disruptor shots are not going to land for the time. Yeah, they're not going to land at all. But he's found an angle between the armies. He's found a spot between the armies where the Liberators don't exist. But he's just not finding value here as he trades Stalkers away. He's lost a base. He's losing. It really does feel like Trigger at this stage in the game feels utterly lost. Feels like he just doesn't know what to do. At least on this map, we're seeing him lose units all over the place, trade really inefficiently. He's got some level of a bank, and he's gonna be able to get this, at least delay this command center. But he committed for Storm, hasn't used that at all. He's not diving on top of the Liberators when they're dangling as well as he could have. I think that was another Warp Prism maybe that just went down. Oh, what am I saying? We can check this. Yeah, another Warp Prism went down on the right side. Stalkers are going to try to get on top of the Liberators and get them something. But at this point, Bunny has absolutely seized the game by the horns here. And even these High Templar, you can see there's no energy in any of them. So the Storm is not particularly useful. And the map is just being slowly, steadily constricted. Yeah, another Liberator. Stalkers don't even have enough damage. There are not enough Stalkers in this army. So Trigger's maxed out. He's mining more. Absolutely. But how do you fight this army? You just... Even if you run away, I'm not trying to balance one. It just feels really, really hard to be able to make this happen. And SkyToss hasn't looked all that impressive either. The disruptor shots are nice. They're going to shut down some of these Widow Mines. But there's no detection with this army. And even that dangling disruptors would... Oh my, no. That one hurts. And of course, when we talk about this, the problem with switching to SkyToss... As Trigger's now trying to do it, adding in a Stargate. But the problem with SkyToss is, first of all, it's more expensive than adding in all these Liberators. And second of all, it's not nearly as mobile as the Terran army. You can't have a SkyToss ball and have a mobile army. It's just not realistic. So then the Terran's going to take the map and start to really spread you apart in a way that you can't, because Liberators hold space. Oh, come on, Trigger. Punish this base. But he doesn't see it, I guess. Doesn't know about it. He was right there. He could have killed it. But again, yeah, the problem is that SkyToss doesn't hold space nearly as well as finally Zealous are going to find this. Maybe try to knock it down. But Trigger, okay, he's going to dive on top of a bunch of Liberators. And Archons are nice against this. The Liberators are a siege, but this is a horrible fight. This is so bad. This is a massive... Well, maybe... Yeah, I know it's bad. Even as the supply stays lower for the Terran for just... Well... Bunny didn't commit. And that was a lot of Liberators hitting the deck all of a sudden. 6 Liberators, a bunch of other stuff. Trigger maintains his supply, and Bunny doesn't have a lot of money, actually. He's only on 80 gas. He actually is starved for gas pretty hard. The base on the left side gets killed. Huh. Maybe that was better. Maybe that was better than I thought it was after all. Disruptor on the left side is going to zone out, but Trigger's going to have to back up again. But he's starting to find a little bit more damage. As the map gets a little bit more spread out, he's finding ways to knock out... Oh, this has gotten... Drop something. Did the storm get canceled? No, he's got it. It's like he's forgotten. Never mind. No, he cast a storm on Liberators at one point, I think. Darkers, no. Run a blink on top, but this is not easy. Yeah, that Liberator position, impossible. You're not going to take that fight. So he gets a couple SCVs. He's going to have to back up, but I like what Trigger's doing here. He's taking a base from the Terran. That's the important thing to do, is he's just cycling between these two bases, getting trades as well as he can. Liberators will siege, of course, but there's a little bit of time where you can go before something happens, although that's a dead Archon. Also going to try to find a couple more SCVs, and more power to them. They have +3 armor. They have shields. But the problem is this Liberator position is untouchable. It's on dead airspace. Stalkers will not blink on top of that, will not kill that. So Bunny's got his right side at this point. I think it's going to be very... Oh, disruptors are going to make a difference. I'm going to say it's going to be very hard for Trigger to break this area. But he's taking a base from the Terran. He's got this upper left. He's actively mining from it, which is the really big deal, is this Liberator. I don't know that Stalkers can kill... I don't know that Stalkers can touch that. So Trigger's got a Phoenix on the way. I think I'd prefer a Void, but... Again, that's a little more expensive. And Stalkers, I think they succeeded in killing off a couple of the Liberators, but it's not like Trigger has money to throw away on a ton of Stalkers. That's still very expensive. He's not on multiple thousands of bank, but ooh, he's going to find some army right here. Blinks on top. And here's the big deal. First of all, storms don't land all that well, but the Liberators weren't there. For a moment, and I wish Trigger had committed to it, for a moment he had found a position where the Liberators were not there, were not holding space. And that would have been a really nice position to attack into. So Trigger is, again, he's finding ways to start to dissect this. He's finding opportunities to get some value, to a nice disruptor shot, gets a couple ghosts to trade in some way. And as long as, look, if he's able to, because he's retaking this base as well, if he's able to go and take this base mine significantly from the Terran, these Stalkers are chirping all over the place. Hold position on the... that's a sacrifice, but it's only because Trigger's elsewhere getting decent damage. Disruptors are going to get forced out. Widow Mines get... But again, Trigger is... If he can take a base from the Terran, that's effectively winning by 2 bases. And at that point, the fact that he's down 9,000 resources, 8,000 resources, doesn't really matter. So Trigger thinks about it. And he commits a little bit. Will lose a couple Stalkers here. Doesn't lose the Disruptor, though. That's the big deal. And Liberate on the left side. This is Trigger's target. It's gonna be it's a wounded base. It's a severely wounded base. Stalker's gonna get on top of Liberators as they try to siege. This is what you want to do if you're a Protoss player. Force the Terran out, buy time. Storms will go down. It's gonna be a dead Colossus, but again, nice storms. And oh man, these medevacs are tapped. There's not a lot of energy here. Trigger's not quite at the break point just yet, but he's starting to do it. This base doesn't matter all that much. There's not a lot of, I can't click on it. There's not a lot of gas, but or minerals remaining, but having an orbital at the mule, it scans is really important. Trigger has successfully reduced the space. He's reduced the positioning on the map that Bunny's allowed. And again, he's taken a base from Bunny, 23 out of 16. He's gonna mine hard out of that base. The only wish is that he had SCVs, or that he had mules, excuse me, to really punish that. But now Bunny, Trigger's got a bank, and Bunny doesn't really. His Disruptor's gonna get an SCV, not a ton. And he will lose it. Well, he's actually not gonna lose a Disruptor for it, but this is the moment that Trigger's been looking for. Finding the army out of position, trying to get this planetary down, but he's gonna back away a little bit too afraid. But still, he's out of Liberator range. The base is dead. Storms will fall on the Liberators, and that means the Stalkers can one-shot, but there's not enough splash damage right now. That's a massive storm, and now Trigger, he's gonna back up, take his bounty, run away because he gets another base, and Bunny's dead in the late game. Bunny, a Terran player, loses when they have more than 15 Liberators. I know I'm getting excited about it. It's only game one, but let me tell you, that does not happen often. Bunny, he falls. Trigger takes game one. And the upper left in the blue, excuse me, in the red, I can see colors. He's down a game. After the late game, after the mass Liberator play, it's Bunny. And of course, in the bottom right, clutching it out in the late game, starting to finally tear his opponent apart. He's up one now. It's Trigger. Man, what a game one. Actually, such a crazy game. Trigger's lost in the mid game. He doesn't know what to do. He's taking all this damage. It's not great. Feels bad. And then he buckles down. He breaks the Terran. He breaks the bank, and starts to go. Starts to kill Liberators, and it's one of those things where Mass Liberator is strong, is incredibly strong, but they're not cheap, and it costs to build Marauders, Ghosts, and Liberators at the same time. That's a lot of gas to build into. So the problem really was that Bunny ran out of bases. He ran out of gas mining, which is not something we think about with Terran players all that much. And now, well, Trigger was able to clutch the game out. And if we're gonna get 5 more games of that, please give me that one. The journey to a late game, it starts in the early game. And for now, again, nothing too crazy from either side. It's going to be an Adept opening coming out of Bunny or out of Trigger, making sure that this Reaper's not going to get much done. It's not even going to be an attempted bunker this time. Bunny, of course, is one of those players that loves going for bunkers. That's something that he is a big fan of, and we saw him try it in game 1, but it was canceled. It was denied by Trigger, so we're going to have to see what he's going to be able to get done this time. Is, again, I think the one thing we got to pay attention to is damage on the Reaper, but it won't go down, is whether Trigger, if Trigger ever opens Stargate at some point. Because while Stargate is good, and we're seeing a lot of players play it, a lot of Protoss players are playing it, especially against aggressive Terrans. Harstem looks really good against Clem with that back in Homestory Cup. Trigger's not a Stargate guy. Trigger's not a Stargate guy. So again, this is one of those things where I expect to see him go. I expect to see him go and open Twilight probably every single game, maybe Equilibrium, because that's just so good for drops. If we have Equilibrium in the pool, and I don't know if we do, maybe we see him open Stargate there. And that is something that, if Bunny knows this, I don't know that he does. He's not been all that active. If we look at a head-to-head, by the way, they've only ever played once. Bunny's 1-0 against Trigger, but Again, that's not a lot of activity. If Bunny's not aware of this, then it's not something that he can necessarily go and punish. So while I know that this is going to happen, and North American players know that this is how people that follow the NA scene know that this is how Trigger's going to open 99 games out of 100. Well, Bunny, for his part, may not be doing so, as Reaper Hellion primed out to dive into the natural, and we have the medevac drop us. Well, first game, Bunny went into the main base. Second time, in the natural, so the Stalkers aren't going to get as much damage done. Probes get pulled on it for a second, thinking maybe they can kill it, but no way. Absolutely not here. Stalkers, though, try to kill, and they're going to get 2 total probes. I think a Stalker died. No, 5 probes died. I'm sorry, 5 total probes went down because the Reaper Hellion caught the probes on the pull. It's a brilliant move there from Bunny, but at the end of the day, it gets just as much done as it did in game number 1. We know how that game ended up in 27 minutes. And putting the pin on that last game, I mean, we're probably going to have to talk about it more as the game goes late, if Bunny doesn't end the game early, is something that Cure does, and we see other top Terran players do. And that is that we saw Bunny playing very defensively with his Liberators. He established this zone of control that you couldn't break. That's there. Can't go through that, not easily. You got to pick away at the edges until something happens. Well, top Terran players, they don't do that. That's not how Clem is playing. That's not how Cure is playing. What they do is they aggressively run the Liberators at the Protoss, and they siege them up on top of the army, and they force a fight, and they say, hey, I'm not defining my space of control. I'm creeping into your space of control. I'm making it so you don't have this. You can't be comfortable. Instead of the previous situation where we saw Bunny do, where he had the space where he was sieged up and he thought he was comfortable. But as we saw, if you're playing on the defensive, you have to play probably a little bit harder to play defensively than it is to get aggressive in most situations. The Stalkers are here. They're again looking for a nice catch. This time, they're not going to find nearly as much. It's not going to be a medevac and 8 Marines. It's going to be the move out. So we're going to see the Observer go down as well. Marauders take damage, but it's not enough to kill one just yet. Where are we at on tech-wise? First Colossus? Out. Sentry. Out. 7 Stalkers on the map. And Forge on the way. So, second Colossus won't be done in time for this push. But Trigger finds the army a little. Trigger finds this drop on the left side. He has got to be careful. Stalkers blink away. And that's a bad force field. It's a little bit too far to the north of where you would really like it to be. So he's going to have to just give this position up. And that also means that he doesn't have force fields to guard this ramp as easily. And the army on the right side, it's also going to get scouted out. So Trigger has all the information that he needs. He knows what's happening. He knows where the armies are. But his army is not quite where it needs to be. Not just yet. The second Colossus is out now. We don't have a third one on the way yet. But charge is going to be done in about 20 seconds. Just in about 20 seconds. The Widowmine drop. Thinking about it. Trigger doesn't blink on top in time. Probes have to get pulled here again. And they're a little bit clustered. So it's actually only going to be 2. Somehow it's only going to be 2 here. And Bunny baits it out, but Trigger's not going to fall for it. And we're going to see this medevac go down. Okay, medevac is dead. And now here comes Trigger, or here comes Bunny trying to get on top. 1 Colossus shut down. Second one as well. Overcharged gets popped here. But there's no third Colossus on the way until right now. And a lot of these Zealots will fall. This buys the time for the Raven energy to go down. And Stalkers are going to get on top of a Marauder. So nice move there out of Bunny. He was able to pin the army and the natural force value out, but Shield Battery Overcharge keeps things alive. And oh, that blink on the Widowmine doesn't feel good. This army, though, out of Bunny is very, very low. And the Viking count is not high at all. So if Trigger can find his way to maybe press across, if he had a third Colossus, definitely, I think he could have found some value. I think he might have been able to shove the third base in. As it stands, though, he doesn't have that third Colossus. +1 wasn't done. Second Forge not done yet. Second Robo not done yet. Missing out on observers on the map. He's just going to take his 4th base. And Golden Aura is a very good map for playing 4, 5, 6 bases for, well, 4 bases. Maybe not 5, maybe not 6, but for playing a more macro game. So this army on the bottom left side is going to try to find its way in. But there are 3 Colossus on the ramp, and while the Raven is still there, that can shut down some of this. Good luck. But this 4th base seems like destined to get canceled. It's out of position. Stalkers, Zealots are going to try to warp in, but this base does get canceled here. That doesn't feel great. That being said, though, Zealots on the other side. Bunny's entire army's on the front line, and this time, unlike the last game, the Zealots have +1, and again, the army is very heavily stimmed. So if Trigger can catch this, he's gonna be able to find something. Force field, again, not incredible, but 8 SCVs have gone down. Trigger's gonna be able to reestablish that 4th base again. And now 2-1's on the way. Second Forge is done. Marauders are starting to fall. Medevacs are starting to fall as well. That's the big prize. That's just a hanging Medevac or 2. The one random wood of mine should be dealt with at some point, but Trigger's got his 4th base about halfway done. He'd like it done. A little out of position there. But his army is rapidly building itself up to a point where Bunny is going to struggle to deal with. But again, off of the Colossus play, he's building Immortals 3 at a time. This seems to be how he wants to play this game. This is what he seems to think is good. And as we saw in that last fight, he took a maxed out fight. It didn't work out. That being said, he was 20 seconds short of 2-2. This time, he's going to be able to take a fight with, well, either take it before he's maxed out, before both players are maxed out, or he's going to be able to take it with 2-1. He's going to be able to have a better upgrade timings. As these Zealots, they're dead. So I'm curious how Trigger decides to play this, because again, Immortals are strong, but they have a shelf life. Once the Terran player, especially once they start to get to Liberators, which we know is the end game of every Terran player. Once they get to Liberators, Immortals don't do much. You want either burst units, so say Disruptors, or Colossus. Well, you really actually don't want Disruptors, right? Because of Liberator range. Yeah, get a couple to zone the army to prevent them from diving on top of you, but really it's Colossus and Stalkers. Colossus and Stalkers in the main army, and Zealots on the harass. So for now, Trigger's going to see this drop coming on in. He sees the army on the left side as well. So that's a big question. Does he see both? He sees them. They're on the map, but does he see them? Does he notice that they're both there? And for now, yeah, Colossus is going to go into the main base. He's aware of both positions. This fire base, just good luck. Yeah, you're not fighting up that choke. It's not going to happen. And in the main base, Bunny's going to scan out, sees that there's army there. He's not going to try to make that thing happen either. So Widowmines, I guess they got a couple probes somewhere. Something died. A couple probes died somewhere. Not really sure where that was actually. But this army in the front line also, again, not going to be able to find the value. So Trigger is going to be able to max out on this. +3 attack on the way. +2 armor should get started soon. And that's going to, I think, that should trigger the timing, right? Once Trigger, he's going to be on +3 attack. That's going to be done very quickly. He's adding in the, yeah, absolutely. He's going on the aggressive here. He's adding in the Warp Prism. He's adding in those last couple Immortals. Takes a pretty solid fight on the left side, even as an Archon goes down. The Archons was actually able to get splash damage, which doesn't happen all that much. And on the right side, this is a beautiful one. Oh, the EMP misses the Archon as well. So this is an army doomed to die here. Nice move out of there, Trigger, getting a lot of the value, and he's going to catch it on the retreat. He's going to catch it on both sides. Here come the Colossus as well, and Bunny's a little bit too slow. This is a big move because, again, Trigger wants to get aggressive right now. This is his timing when he wants to move out on the map. The Vikings, though, they are here, and there's a Liberator as well, so you got to be careful with that one. The army's a little bit disjointed, but the Colossus are firing. EMPs try to hit the Immortals. They're going to start to knock them down, but the ground army of Bunny is falling apart. Starkers now, they blink on top. They think they have it, and they do. The Colossus are dead, absolutely, but there is not a lot on the ground anymore. 2-1 here for Trigger, +3 attack done soon. It doesn't matter in this fight. Question now is, where's our Warp Prism? It's not here yet. There's no reinforcement lines. So Bunny gets broken, the army gets broken briefly. But there's not enough reinforcements. Big deal, though, is that the Immortals are able to get home. This is not the fight of last game where, well, the Immortals, they try to take a fight, and Bunny takes a better one. All the Immortals die. Trigger won the fight, but he didn't win the war, but that meant he was allowed to keep his 8 Immortals. Soon to be 9 Immortals on the map. That's totally fine. So, +3 attack, just about done. +2 armor, halfway done. Adding in Colossus once again, taking another base. Well, hey guys, yeah, taking 2 bases here. Taking advantage of the map control that he has. So at this point, the army doesn't have as much splash. It's not as technical for the time being. There are a lot of ghosts in this army. This is, we talked about the Immortals staying alive. Oh, actually, they will. Only one falls. Pretty nice. But now the game's starting to slow down a little bit because, hey, it's everyone's favorite TvP timing. Liberator range. Liberator range is done. Near enough. 2 seconds now, and this game becomes a whole lot harder for Trigger once again. Big deal, though. He is not treated nearly as badly as he did in the previous game. At this point, I think he was down 2,000 or 3,000 resources. At this point, his economy is in a... Oh, what am I going to hit? That was a bit of a late blink there, Trigger. But his economy is not nearly in as bad of a spot. He's on 5 bases. The Protoss, or the Terran player, has 4. He's going to have to cancel this one. It's hard to take 2 bases at once. But again, his base count's pretty solid. I think I'd like to see him take the gold, actually, just considering where we're playing. The problem right now is this drop into the main base. There's no warp. It's 4 supply available. There's not a lot to really stop this warp, and so I think this is going to have to be a Oh, no, Trigger's kind of here. It's going to get some damage done, but not a ton. It's going to get some probes, certainly, but getting 8 probes... Oh, it's going to get the Dark Shrine. That's actually a big deal. He's just going to target that thing down. That's going to take a while to replace. So, yeah, it's only 8 probes, and that's not the biggest of deals. The fight in the middle of the map is going so well for Trigger. I'm talking about Dark Shrines going down, and yeah, that's a problem. Mortals don't die from this. But Trigger has bailed himself a 20 supply lead. Zealots find their way into the base, and yeah, we talked about how this is the problematic timing when, hey, the Liberators have range, but if Trigger can bring his army to bear right now, and I think he cleaned up the rest of that drop as well. If he can bring this army to bear, he's on a 20-30 army supply lead. Maybe he... I mean... Good luck cracking the base. Trigger's got his 6th base on the way. Bunny will be allowed to max out again. But we look at resources lost, and this is a late game where the Terran player has lost more resources, which is a big deal again, because Trigger's he's got the map. He's taking the gold base. He's got the right side base as well. He's got Bunny. He's got his 4 bases locked up. I mean, good luck attacking into this. Good luck attacking into this. But taking a 5th base, that is a lot harder. So Zealots are going to sacrifice their lives. I don't know how I feel about this, especially with the... Yeah, no. This is not great. This is pretty... If you play on the edge and shell away, fine. Absolutely do that one. But don't commit. Big deal, though. 5th base on the way. This is what Trigger needs to counter. This is what he needs to cancel. And this is a lot easier to try to crack down on. High ground. This ramp is the smallest thing in existence. You're not breaking it. This position. You got... No, the small... This, though, this is breakable. You can come in from multiple angles. You can play on the high ground. You can play with the dead airspace. This is where the map gets a little harder for the Terran. Or really anyone. But Trigger's done such a good job of staying active on the map that he's going to be okay. So now, he's going to start to put some pressure on this base. The Liberators are not where they need to be, not for the time being. And Trigger, because he's got so much more money, he is going to transition into Sky Toss this game. Well, nice feedback there, but it seems like the gold base is not going to go down. Not enough damage. It's only, I think, it's close if you have +3, but certainly not with +2. So Fleet Beacon on the way, +1 air attack on the way. We're sitting on 3 Stargates, which I think is going to be for Tempest. No, it's got to be, right? This map is, talking about what maps are good for or not good for, this map is really good for Tempest play. You can sit the Tempest right here, shell away at the Liberators, shell away at the base. It's pretty nice. This is a win of mine. He'll take some shots. I do wish Trigger had taken that opportunity, because this Bunny wasn't set up to take this base. Not really. He was not in a good position just yet. He had 2 Liberators on the north side, but no Widow Mines down. The planetary was done. Problem was Trigger just didn't realize what was happening. He wasn't quite in position to bring his full army to bear. So now, man, Liberators. Absolutely just denying mining. It's untouchable. You need air. So Tempests are on the way, luckily. As this drop, a couple Marauders, 4 Marines, all wounded, are just going to find its way out of cannon range. Trigger's playing whack-a-mole for a little bit of time. He's going to have to deal with this. But the Tempests are starting to hit the field, and that is going to be his next transition when you really... Oh, that's nice. That's a nice disruptor shot right there. But this is the timing when you really start to find some value. So, and honestly, Trigger losing a couple SCV or a couple probes like this is not the end of the world. He can rebuild them very easily. But also, he needs some free supply. He needs to be able to go as scan goes on north side. And again, Trigger's taking a base from Bunny. That's the big deal. That's always going to be the big deal. If you can mine from one more base than the Terran, if you can mine from one more base than the Terran, you're going to put yourself in a really a wonderful spot. The negative trades from playing the Liberators are not going to matter nearly as much. The Bunny's trying to run straight up the gullet here. Here's High Templar. Doesn't have energy for anything. It's going to go down, but on the backside, this is awkward. This is a weird fight that we're going to have. So, well, Liberators are going to siege up on the backside. What's the play here? Do you recall Trigger? Do you recall to take the ramp? Tempests are running through the middle of the map, and the answer is a base trade. So, Planetaries are here. Liberators are going to go down. Colossus will shred the Marauders. That's not the problem. Storms on. Oh, I love this. Storms on the Liberators. That's so much damage on the Storms, but there needs to be a little more. One more High Templar would do so much. And here's the problem. Bunny's on the other side. He's killing more than Trigger has. The base hasn't even gone down. Meanwhile, Trigger's lost one. He's about to lose the second base. The recall on top of the entire army. He only loses, he loses 2 Colossus. He's going to lose a lot of these medevacs. He's still got the gold base. He's still got the north side, even if he's not mining from it. And what's our Liberator count at? It's 13 Liberators, but I think they're all tremendously low. He does have storms in this army. One big storm shreds these Liberators if they're clumped up. And Trigger doesn't have much of a bank, though. Bunny's got one. Trigger spent a lot of money on that. He didn't lose this base, but he lost the base that he was actually mining from. And somehow, despite him having the gold and having more workers, he's mining... Well, he's mining more minerals now, so that's fine. Okay, here's the big deal. Liberators are getting repaired. The single storm wind condition's not really a thing anymore. And more importantly, the Vikings are getting added in. We got 4 of them right now. A couple more are on the way. Tempests don't fight Vikings incredibly well. If you get 5, you one-shot Vikings, and we're at 2 right now. 5 one-shots Vikings, but it's still really hard to handle, especially if it's not just the Tempest kiting back and forth, and it's, say, your entire army fighting. It's really hard to manage. So Bunny's on 5 bases. Trigger's on, what is it, 1, 2, 3... 4, 5, 6, 7. He's on like 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's on 8 bases. 7 of them actively mining. This one is getting retaken at the moment. He's got money. He's rebuilt his bank once again. The Planetary Storms. I love the feedbacks and the Storms on this army as well. But he will lose the Marauder, and still somewhere. Liberator on the north side, out of range of any stalkers that they can hit. So that is against some economic damage. 9 probes go down. And again, we're in the situation where Bunny has his space. Bunny is absolutely, he's got his 5 bases. They're not really going to be easy to take it away from him. Do we know where this ghost is, Trigger? Do we see this ghost? Trigger. Okay, it's gonna be two immortals. I thought that was gonna be I really thought that was gonna be a lot worse, and this ghost is gonna run out of energy. So gonna run out of energy in 10 seconds. Oh, it's gonna get some High Templar as well. Maybe that's dead. Okay, nice nuke though. And suddenly Trigger here, he's got the bank, but he doesn't have a lot of minerals, or he doesn't have a lot of gas, excuse me. He's lacking on that one. He's taking the gas on the north side, but he's not mining out of it. He hasn't dealt with this Liberator. He F2'd. F2'd to deal with the ghost eye with the nuke coming in, I guess. So he's got a lot of minerals. He does not have a lot of gas at all, and that is a big problem when we're dealing about this late game. You need it as much gas as possible. The Stalkers are going to blink on top. They're going to get one ghost. Second one goes down. But again, the problem here is the complexity of the Terran army is just hard to deal with. 7,000 minerals, just about as much gas. Oh, storm. That's a nice storm. That's a beautiful storm. And again, you need like 4 of them really. But even still, knocking that storm down is really, really nice. Now, the problem here is that Trigger's taken this base from the Terran. But he hasn't mined from it a ton, so he hasn't stolen a lot of money from the Terran player. He's got the gold, and that is actively mining out. That's where you want to be. But if the Terran takes the north side base, actually, if Bunny's able to get this base, then he's going to have more money on the map in totality. As the snipe goes down, was that a dead high? I think that was a dead High Templar. Disruptor is going to go down on top of the army. Targeted down, though. EMPs They're going to go off as well. Storm's nice. The Liberators are, again, the problematic thing here. And now Bunny's found inside track onto this base, the base that he desperately needs. Now, there are Tempests at, like, full surround here. And that's a little weird. But I think the other thing we got to talk about is that Bunny has pretty fully committed onto this. This is the majority of his army. Ghosts are getting targeted down. Ghosts are getting targeted down. But Trigger does find his way on the inside track. This planetary may go down. The base is dead. Tempest on the north side, absolutely. Yeah, they're dead. Too many Vikings. If Trigger can take a base out of this and get a lot of SCVs, storms are going down on all the SCVs here. Maybe this is going to be worthwhile trade. It's 21 dead SCVs, but it's a lot of tech from Trigger going down. It's a recall, certainly. But all the Tempests, all the Colossus will fall. Stalkers rally across, but again, that's not great. So Trigger loses a lot there. It's now a 10,000 resources lost delta once again. But Immortals are doing something here. There's not a lot on the ground. Where'd Trigger recall to, though? There's his army. Paltry army. So this base goes down. 27 SCVs to 68 probes. But importantly, Trigger is down half the army supply of his opponent. It's 140 army supply to 70. So, that doesn't feel good. The storm is decent. But Trigger is lacking, I don't know, warp ends or something. Vikings are going to land right now. Stalkers have to get out. The storms are, again, really, really good. But there's not more where that came from. What do we have right now? It's no High Templar on the map. Archon will not morph. Any amount of splash damage right now kills this army. That's how Trigger resets this game. But as of right now, he's not building it. He's got 1 Disruptor on the way, 2 Immortals, 2 Tempests. And Trigger is slowly but steadily starting to mine this base out. 600 minerals, 1,200, 12, so 24, 3,000 odd minerals in this game, or on that base. And he didn't mine a lot out of this. He didn't mine a ton out of these mineral patches. Realistically, the Liberator did such a good job of denying that. Which means, of course, that when Bunny goes to take this base, we're going to be in one of those scenarios where actually Bunny will have more resources total on the map. Gold base just doesn't have as much money on it as these probes, Widow Mines. Gold bases don't have as many minerals on them as a blue base does. So yeah, Trigger has been mining more for quite a while. His income has been really, really solid. But if Bunny gets this base, that's going to change pretty quickly. And even as Bunny, he's not mining a lot. He's mining half as much as the Protoss player. He doesn't have much of a mineral bank. His gas is where it needs to be for the time being. Trigger's going to take the base again. And his army supply is the Ghost. His army supply is getting a little bit better. Liberator denying mining on the bottom left side. Even still, Trigger's got a lot of mining. And his gas income's not all that bad either. So again, I think we might be in one of those scenarios where, yeah, Bunny's been trading better. And look at this. Bunny's been trading so much better. Those EMPs are really nice. But he runs out of money. And that was what happened in that last game. Trigger forced Bunny to run out of money. Now, Trigger has to be very careful right here. He wants to defend this base, but he can't go into the corner like that. He's going to get absolutely smothered by Freedom Zone. So, for now, he's going to show up there anyways and try to hold the position. And it seems like Bunny is not going to take advantage of this right now. Planetary or Orbital will take some damage. The Tempest. Really nice job there playing from range. The Vikings are really far back for some reason. I'm not really sure why. And Bunny's also lacking in air upgrades. That's not something I was paying attention. He's getting +2 armor on his, well, +2 mech armor. He's not getting a +2 attack. The reason that Liberators are so oppressive, on top of Liberator range, is the fact that when you get +2, if you EMP Stalkers, +2 air attack plus EMP means Stalkers get 1 shot. Otherwise, they get 2 shot. It's such a big deal. This Liberator will go down. So, yeah, a couple more probes die, but the Liberator's dead. And realistically, Trigger's not mining out of this base. He's mining fully saturated as well as he can on this base. He's pretty much saturated everywhere. But here come the Liberators, and it's going to be Trigger's forced out for the time being. Disruptor gets a shot. Will lose his life in the exchange. I think what Trigger wants to do here. Now, he's only got 3 Tempests, not 5 Vikings. Don't get the Tempest down. Shield battery overcharges popped. I think. Actually, it doesn't even matter. That's only 5 mineral patches. The north side bases are really the only thing that matters. So, I think Trigger has to do the old wraparound to try to find some way around this, but that's not going to be easy. And he's just going to give the base up. This is not a position he can defend, but if he can go and again punish this base, knock this down, maybe, or run straight up the gullet. There are Vikings randomly on the map. There's value to be found, and if he can do that, take a base down, knock down a lot of tech, force and go recall back down, that may be the play, because again, his bank is good again. His bank is okay. Zoning Liberator or Zoning Disruptor on the right side is not going to get a ton. Vikings are starting to fall, but again, so too are the Tempests, and you need solid splash. So this base, 37 HP, no SCV in sight. That may just fall down. Oh, need to zoom. There we go. And Zealous now getting on top of production as well. This is what Trigger has to do. Again, the money's not good for our Terran. He's got a ton of gas. Minerals, not really there. So if Trigger can punish this, and he's starting to, maybe that's going to be enough. Oh, 3 ghosts going down for the Disruptor. Marauders fall as well. And now again, we're going to see this late game happen where the Liberators fall, where they're starting to get zoned out a little bit, where they're starting to get knocked down. Only 4 mineral patches on this base. Trigger, he's got the base on the north side again. He bought time. And the supply again is not good, but look at this bunny. Well, I guess Trigger is oh, he's not mining on the gold base. He lost all the probes at the base. He needs to resaturate that. So the money is not good for either player at this point. Stalker's on the north. Oh, Storms, EMPs. Storms, EMPs. Who hit him first? Storms, Trigger. Drop your Storms, Trigger. And the EMPs mean that, oh, well, he's going to get one of them off, but it's not enough. It's not going to be enough to blanket the army, but the base on the left side goes down. So this is one mining base. 10 SCVs. All the minerals that Bunny has in this game right now. All the money that he's mining. So this base, we talked about how imperative it is, and it is because it's a full base. It's barely been mined from. Talked about how imperative it is, even more so now, because there's just not a base here. And yeah, Stalkers are going to find so many of these SCVs. Again, the SCV count doesn't matter as much because you have to mine from the bases that exist, and there are not a lot of them. So at this point, Trigger's got to give it up again. He's mining more than the Terran, but he's not mining a lot. His Liberators will fall. This planetary, it doesn't truly matter. There's no money at it, but it is a space control area, and Trigger is slowly again starting to constrict the map, but he loses the north side base. And it's always going to be one of those things. Always going to be one of those things that we talk about where it's like, you know what? Trigger's in a great spot right now. Income-wise is... Bunny doesn't have a lot. Bunny takes this base. He drops a Mule Hammer on it. That all changes. He gets his bank again. He's got minerals. He's going to be okay. So it really is... Trigger's... I don't even know. Okay, so this is 90 minerals. 95 minerals. This base won't pay for itself. Trigger's taking it. Trigger really should have clicked on the minerals in this base. He just paid 450 minerals for a base that doesn't have 450 minerals in it. That is not a common situation whatsoever. I guess maybe it might be. It's not even worth it for the gas. Oh, he can blink past this. He can blink right past this on top of the Liberators. Trigger got a blink. Blink on top of the Liberators. He's losing everything. One Stalker gets now, finally, but that could have been every Liberator on the base. Instead, he loses so freaking much. He loses so many of his Stalkers. He's got 15 on the map, but you gotta... That's an opportunity that you have to take advantage of in these low income scenarios. Technically, Trigger is mining more, but it's not by a lot. And again, this base, I guess it did have more than 450, but not by a lot. So Trigger having that canceled is actually a big deal. It's Bunny kind of saved him from, really did save him from himself. Second question though, we talk about Mule Hammers. There were only 3 orbitals on the map. This is not going to be a massive... This is not going to be a big Mule Hammer. The big thing that you're worried about is in this late game, the Terran has 5, 6, 7 orbitals or something, and they take the one base and their minerals just shoot up, and you're in a rough spot. But because the scans are just continuously having to be used, and because again it's only triple orbital, it's still a problem that if Bunny's able to hold on to this wins him the game. But even still, I think what we need to see, Trigger needs to break this base. Trigger needs to put pressure on this base. Yes, it does convince the Terran to swing left on top of him, but he knows all the Liberators are going to be invested on keeping that north side base alive. As got to be careful. Widow Mine is going to go off. Another play that Trigger could do. Oh man, that's so many High Templar. Holy crap. And half of them have lost their energy. Ghost will fall. The other play, of course, is to dive into the main base, get on top of the Terran production, force them to fight into you. But that's not great. And disruptors are not going to find incredible value. So this is what we're looking at right now. It's 11 Vikings, 16 Liberators, 3 Tempests, 10 High Templar. If you can chain the storms, you're going to be in a good spot. But Trigger is backing himself slowly into a corner here. Recall is made, but you don't even recall at this point. There's too much damage in the army. Disruptors get more ghosts. Okay. We're looking at 1 ghost on the map. How? 1 or 2 storms. Most of them have been EMP'd. Well, Disruptor, no storms. That storm on the Vikings, but it's not incredible. And 3 more ghosts are on the way, because the one thing that Bunny has had, the one thing Bunny's had this entire game, he's had a gas bank. That's been the one thing that's been working out for him. And again, if he's allowed to mine from this base for much longer, Trigger has 0 shot in this game. So he's got to find a way. And when we're looking at 15 Liberators, it's just so much. But again, he's found a spot. Liberators are not sieged up. That's going to be another dead Liberator and another dead Liberator, and Disruptors zone out the bio. So again, that's absolutely what you're looking for. And the ghost count, it's at 6 now. What? It's at 5. It's at 4. That's a big deal. It's going to be at 3. EMP doesn't hit all the High Templar anymore. But you got to find a way out. And now this army's going to get slowed down. That means more Liberator shots. And this is so tense. Again, the base though. I wonder. Yeah, I like what Trigger's doing right now. I was gonna say, I wonder if he's forced the Terran army to just be afraid of the left base enough that he can rotate over. I guess the answer is no. But he might be able to jump on top. Oh, Liberators unsieged once again. He's not gonna find. Oh, on the left. Oh, I like this. Left side. Vikings, Liberators available. EMPs hit the front of the army, and we're looking at, again, it's 3 ghosts. There are. I don't think there's. I can't click on the ghosts. 1 EMP. 1 EMP in this army, and now here come the Stalkers. It's a scary blink. There's a planetary. There's a lot. Oh, maybe. Again, we talked about this base mining and that being a big deal. It's 1 Marine. Pull the probes just to kill that. I think that's the play. We talked about this base being a big deal. Trigger's doing a really good job of trading and of just picking things off time after time. He's got to be so careful, though. I keep saying it, but it's true. He's looking for the angle. 5 ghosts on the way, but here's the thing. Terran's out of gas. He's mining 2 out of 2 gas at the moment. That's all that he's got. So these ghosts that he's made are going to be the last gas units he's going to have for a while. Or at least the last gas units in any quantity he's going to have for quite a while. Mineral also totally expended. So Trigger, if he can knock these ghosts down, and it's a big if because he's on 7 ghosts right now. That's a lot more EMPs. If he can find that value. Oh. This is There's a brilliant move. Okay, so Trigger's got the mothership on the way. That's honestly a pretty cost-effective way to play this, as long as the Vikings don't just annihilate it. This army's a little bit exposed. The Liberators aren't here, but ghosts are a little bit too far behind, so it's not great. And Trigger's going to have to split his army up a little bit. It's just Bio loves. So it's going to be a dead Disruptor at the very least. But the mothership is why I'm a little excited, as Trigger is barely mining anything. There's very little gas. 21 out of 3 on this gas geyser. Mining very little gas, though. A mothership. That's potentially how he breaks this base. You put the mothership right here. You recall right on top of it. Now, the Liberators probably siege up in time, but you might be able to get the damage done. I don't know. Oh, there's an angle here. The Liberators are not sieged up properly, so Stalkers get on. This is what Trigger's been waiting for this entire time. He gets on top of all the Liberators. Storms go down as well. This base is dead. This is the best. Trigger's been looking for this for the last 5 or so minutes. That's a lot of dead Liberators, but he's got to find a way out right now. Stalkers, they blink forward, sacrificing some of their lives to keep the tech-heavy units around. That's 8 dead SCVs, 29 SCVs on the map. The base is dead. Bunny's rebuilding it, but look at the income, 500. Trigger doesn't have a lot either. SCVs are going to start to go down here. It's free scouting. Bunny, he can't mine with these anymore, so it doesn't matter. And what a What a series we've got. Game 1 went to 29 minutes. Game 2 is on 39 minutes, and this is not a game of, well, you know, it's PvZ and no one's attacking. This is a game of, wow, this is so tightly contested. His mothership's on the left side looking for the recall, by the way. That's the big deal. And again, the Liberators, they're exposed again. Trigger, blink on top of this. You have an opportunity, but he doesn't know. He's afraid. He's too afraid to do anything. Stalker's gonna get another Liberator, blink away, and look at the Liberator count now. It's only 10. It was 16. Mothership on the left side still not doing anything. Liberator, this one's gonna go down. Storms are not landing. Trigger, you fumbled this. This is not the fight. Look at the concave coming out of Bunny right now. Storms are gonna have to be magical, and they're not. Not just yet. The army's falling. Storms, it's stormy weather, but it's not gonna matter. And Trigger, finally, he had the opportunity. He could do maybe what he wanted. A massive disruptor shot at the end won't even matter. And Trigger is dead. The mothership recalled. It's not going to even do anything. Trigger could never take a straight up fight. Not late game, not into Ghosts and landed Vikings and Liberators. He had the play. He had the opportunity. And he's just coming to terms with it at this point. Those Liberators were uncontested. He could have blinked right past them. There was no planetary. And instead, Bunny takes a game. Bunny takes an incredible game. And we move on to game 3, tied up 1 apiece. In the bottom right, in the red, an absolutely insane comeback. It's Bunny. Upper left, in the blue, unfortunately fumbling the bag just a little bit. It's Trigger. And Pashka, thank you so much for the $3.33 tip. I don't know if there's a message. Let me take a look at my stream, at my actual dashboard. It doesn't tend to show me on the... Doesn't always show me on this, which is annoying. Anyways, we're into game 3 now. And we've had 2 excellent, I mean, really good late games. Really solid late games. And I was going to say, I don't know that we want to do that again. But... no message. Okay. Just making clear we don't miss anything. But Oceanborn's another big map. It's a map that has a pretty defensively set out third base. You can hold Colossus here, and it's hard for the Terran to push through unless they're already through the choke. And you have a ramp. Fourth base is a little bit harder to hold, but it's hard to hold in the way that Golden Ore is fourth is hard to hold, where you can still do it. It still chokes. I wonder if we're going to set the record for like longest series, not longest series, but longest series in a while, because we are through 2 games and we're already an hour and 15 minutes in. So for now, there's really not a lot different. Reaper's on the map looking for proxies because, again, this has been an hour and 15 odd minutes of game time thus far. And generally, you might see some proxy. But other than that, very standard. Reaper goes across the map. Bunker goes down to the low ground, which may tell us we're going a little bit greedier at a Bunny. Generally, you just get a bunker at the natural anyway. It defends against Liberate or Adept Warpins and things. But this Reaper should... oh, the Adept's not in position. Okay, never mind. I thought I saw the vision of the Adept on the bottom side. But it finds its way onto the right side. It's not going to delay the command center, though. What you can do, though, is sit behind the mineral line and get some damage done that way. Gotta take the Santa hat off. It's getting hot. A low-quality Santa hat. It's actually kind of sad. I went and wanted to make sure I had a Santa hat to wear for DreamHack. Because, of course, DreamHack Atlanta is going to be the week before Christmas. It's ends on the 18th, so literally 1 week before Christmas. And I could not find a Santa. I finally found one. But anything of decent quality, this is like a $2 polyester, 100% polyester Santa hat. Just like not good. So very sad. I went all over town looking for it today, and I just couldn't find it. But this Reaper will go down. No, there's no wall in the mineral line. This Reaper will survive. quite a bit longer. Stalker will warp. There we go. Reaper's dead. Finally, but it does get a full scout on everything. Knows that, yes, there's a third base on the way. Once again, Trigger is playing greedy. Well, more macro focus. He's going 2 gate blinks, which is what we've been seeing kind of I think we've seen this every game out of Trigger. I don't remember if game 1 opened like that. I can tell you game 2 did. I think game 1 did as well. So 2 base blink, third base, Colossus, or 2 gate blink, excuse me, Colossus play, all that fun stuff. Everything that you would expect out of a very standard macro-focused Terran player. And now the Stalkers are in a wonderful position again to get on top of this medevac. The Widowmines, oh, he's going to get the first Widowmine. Love that. That means it's only 1 dead probe instead of 2. And on the Unburr, little bit of mistake there, Trigger. He would have been okay. Boxed everything. I think he might kill the Widowmine otherwise on the Reburo. It took enough damage on the first shot, but even still. 1 probe goes down. He would love to get the medevac, and oh, the Hellion gets picked up to dive into the main base. I love this. It's gonna get a probe. Probe was damaged from earlier on. It's gonna get that, and 3 shots kill more. So where are the Stalkers? They were running onto the other side of the map. This is such a big brain move coming out of Bunny. It's a single Hellion, but no one expects the Hellion in the main base at all. So it gets 3 probes. That's actually such a big brain play. He understood the moment the Widowmine drop was over, Trigger was going to run onto the other side of the map, because that's what you do. You run onto the other side of the map, you go and you try to put the pressure on the Terran. And he took the half health Hellion from earlier on, drops it in the main base, and turns a drop that was mostly unsuccessful. And had a tiny bit of mining time, but he lost the first Widowmine into one that got 4 probes in total. And I think, as a Terran player, you absolutely take that. Is it going to define the game? No. But it's more than he would have gotten otherwise. And that's going to be pretty nice. So for now, Bunny, he's got a Raven on the map. He has the Raven upgrade stim done in about 20 seconds. 630 combat shields +1, all going to time out really nicely. So an even more aggressive timing coming out of Bunny. But Trigger's going to scout this in the middle of the map. His Stalkers know where this army is, but the army Stalkers are not together. And that means that he's not going to be able to harass this army nearly as much as he would like. Pick off a Marine there. He's thinking about sneaking around, trying to get the Raven maybe. But it's not going to be there in time. So, first Colossus out. Immortals getting chronoed out here. +1 on the way. Charge on the way. They're not ready yet. So Trigger's trying to buy time. That's what he needs. He needs as much time as possible to make sure he's going to be okay. And charge is going to be done very soon. There's a cannon done here as well. That's a big deal, actually, in these early game fights. Cannon's worth a lot. Now, the Colossus will get shut down. That's the problem, but it's not that big of a deal just yet. Shield battery overcharge will get targeted down, but keeps things alive for the time being. Zealots on top of this army, and the Colossus is ready. Trigger will hold. Nice job there. He lost the Immortal. It's not incredible, but he keeps the Colossus alive. There's a second one on the way. Zealots are going to try to join this, and a medevac. Will go down. Nice blink there, Trigger. I thought there was no way he was going to get that. But now Widowmine, Stalkers blink out of it. Oh, follows though, and now Trigger is in a bit of an awkward spot. So he's gonna have to run away again. Colossus shut down for the second time, but the big deal is that the Colossus is shut down in the middle of the map. It's not shut down back at home. And that's actually really nice, because what that means is that it's gonna be 2 Colossus instead of 1, and the Raven doesn't have a lot of energy. So Bunny's got his third base down. It's mining. He's on 56 SCVs. Trigger's got his 4th base on the way. And yeah, that fight was a little awkward with the Widowmines, the second one following the Stalkers. He couldn't quite outblink it in time. But as we can see here, Templar Archives on the way. Warp Prism done. I don't know if he's going to try to just... Okay, I'm going to tell this story about how taking advantage of the fact that a 630 timing doesn't get Vikings quickly at all. You're focused on medevacs. You're focused on this timing. And it's not uncommon to see Protoss players go and just end the game. When that doesn't work, you run across the map, you have charge, you have Archons, and the Terran player is just not ready. But this game, Trigger is opting to play defensively again. So the army on the right side is going to get found out. Widowmine dies very quickly. Second one, well, should die pretty quickly as well here. But the army on the left side is going to try to boost in the main. There's army here, but it's not in the right position. Not quite well enough. Stalkers blink on top. They're going to get maybe one of the medevacs, but not really. So Trigger has to bring his entire army over, and I think this just gets the 4th. I think that's what the value of this is. But for now, probes are starting to go down. Bunny No, Trigger had a good split. So 4 probes will fall. That's going to be it. Notice Bunny targets the Stalker. That makes sure that he gets out. But, again, could have been a lot worse. As the random Widow Mine drop, going to try to find the third base. Trigger's on top. If probe pulls right in time, 1 probe's going to go down. That's, again, the default. And the main base, Stalkers are going to warp in. So I don't think... Well, targeted down. Targeted down. 1 more. I got to blink out of that. There's going to be a couple more probes, but at this point, again, Trigger's playing really solid defense. And that Observer shows him everything. He knows where this army is. He's going to catch the trailing forces if it Stalkers just blink on top of Marauders. Because why the hell not? And a second Robo on the way. +1 armor on the way here. Again, it feels like Trigger is setting himself up for some level of an attack. Otherwise, we'd have +2 attack on the way. We'd have a second Forge on the way. He understands that his army is probably going to be pretty strong right now. That Viking count is... It's at 5. Well, it's only 2 Colossus, actually. So 5 for 2 Colossus is enough. You'd like 6, but 5 is good enough. So maybe not. It's crazy seeing Trigger do this. He seems just content to play defense time after time after time. And these Vikings, they're going to take some shots here right now. EMP's on the army. 1 Colossus gets shut down. And that's the problem. The Ravens have done such a good job of surviving really this entire series. So the Bio's going to get on top. 1 Immortal will fall, but the Colossus is going to show itself up once again. Vikings are not going to get it, just barely. And Marauders, they kill it finally. But here come the reinforcements out of Trigger. He's got 1-1. His army is not great, and the rest of the reinforcements are going to show up. By the way, the Warp Prism, it's dead. It did not find the value it needed. So now Bunny comes shoving in, and this feels like he's going to be able to break Trigger down. Not able to punish the Raven. The Vikings getting pot shots on the Colossus before the fight happens. It just means that Trigger doesn't have the army that he needs. Yeah, Trigger will fall. Bunny, he takes the most decisive game of this series thus far, goes up 2-1. In the bottom left in the red, he's up 2 games to 1, looking to qualify directly to IEM Katowice. It's Bunny. And his opponent in the upper right from Basilisk Gaming, looking to fight back into this series. His name is Trigger. And where do we go? In the game number 4, do you do it again, Trigger? Well, for now, you're going to get eBay blocked. And this is as much as putting a bunker down outside of the natural in game 1. This is a bunnyism. This is a Clem. This is a bunny thing. And especially on a map like Hecate. Look at this. You're not going to take your natural. It is so far from the main base. You're not going to take your natural here. You're not going to take your natural here. It's also really far exposed. So probes have to get pulled. It's economic damage. And it's going to delay the natural. So Trigger cannot be happy about this. Especially when you're sitting here. You're down a game in the series. You're having to fight. And this is it's not your last shot to qualify for Katowice. There is the lower bracket. And technically that might be a little easier because the lower bracket and it's people that have already lost. But in my opinion, Trigger should be up 2-1 in this series. Trigger looked very good in those 2 late games. By the way, for those of you paying attention elsewhere, Scarlet lost 3-2 to Gumiho in the upper bracket, or in the top side of the qualifying match. Special 2's Creator got 2-0'd by Special on the lower side, so Scarlet Special will be a qualifying match, one of the last qualifying matches tonight, and of course, the loser of this series is going to have to directly go and face Cham. Is Cham 2-0'd DRG? The America's Zergs are doing a nice job in ZVZ tonight, defending their territory. But it's not going to be anything different from Trigger in this game. We're not going to see Stargate play, for example. Nothing like that. It's going to be a Twilight. Once again, the Adept, everything slowed down a little bit because of the eBay block. So the Adept's not going to get across in time. Natural's done. Bunker's done. We're all okay with that one. And what's Trigger's... how does Trigger play this differently? I mean, it's just it's a bunch of small things if you think about it. He he wasn't able to. Oh, Reaper. Got a probe. Very nice. Just again, Bunny's doing such a good job here of hitting the off timings, of noticing when something, of hitting in a weird spot, dropping a Hellion in the main base at 4 minutes, because who does that after the Widowmine drop fails? Things like that. It's just very weird. But point being is that last game, it didn't feel like there was any one thing that Trigger did wrong outside of maybe not killing the Raven, but that's hard to do if the Raven just goes in and backs out. But importantly, it does seem like Trigger is bleeding off maybe a few too many units. Maybe. And I think the big deal is he didn't have Stalkers in the middle of the map. He wasn't able to get enough damage done on the bio army for the first push, which meant that maybe a couple more units died, or the Mortal died instead of staying alive. Shield battery went down. And that led to a less powerful army for Trigger, and then he wasn't quite in the proper position to deal with that. But Reaper's going to try to dive into the natural. That will fall. Stalkers in the main base. They're going to find these medevacs, and it's still going to be... Gonna be 4 dead probes. So Trigger, he takes damage. It's not optimal, but he will take damage. Hellion drop again. This is ballsy. This time the medevac has 2 stalker shots, 14 HP. Maybe add the timing off. I said 4 minutes. I guess closer to 5:30 again. As the defense happens, as Trigger wants to be on the map, and I hope for Trigger's sake that he's got a stalker. Oh yeah, okay. So no, he doesn't. There's nothing in the main. And again, the Hellion's going to be deposited in the main base here. And again, Trigger's not going to be aware of it. And again, this is going to get damaged. It shouldn't get a lot. Probes are going to get pulled. How good's the micro? Oh, no, there's a stalker in the main base. Probes are going to get pulled away. It's going to get 2. That's it. But 6 total probes are dead. And here comes the Raven. So ticky-tacky damage. 6 total probes. Raven might get a couple more. Oh, no. Trigger. Game 1 was so good. His army was always where it needed to be. His positioning was really, really nice. This game, he almost scattered the medevac on the right side and could have been okay. He almost caught the medevac as it returned home. And he just didn't quite get it. So small things, absolutely. But Bunny's stim is going to be done in about 20 seconds. Combat shields +1, a little slower. Well, no, they're going to be like 7 minutes. So not quite as quick as the 7:30 timing. It's a little slower. But even still. It's going to be a pretty powerful timing. And I like what we're seeing Bunny do here. He tried to do it in game number 1 as well. It didn't really work out for him. But as an observer will fall as well. But what he's doing here is he's leading his attack with aggression. He's sending a medevac out first, 8 Marines in that, stim's done, of course, and he's going to try to get damage done. And ideally, what this does is it's not going to kill a Colossus. Absolutely not. But it, A, weakens the Protoss. It gets damage done to them. 3 probes have gone down, but ideally it gets them out of position. Or it gets you Stalkers. How many Stalkers just died? It gets you 4 Stalkers. It gets you 3 Stalkers. That's a big deal. Probes are going down here as well. The drop is getting more. Trigger, oh no, Trigger's falling apart. He's down 30. He's down double army supply. The drop's in the main base. Zealot's gonna warp in right now, but the drop's gonna find its way back into third base, and this is untenable damage. The Zealots, as they warp in, are gonna fall. Probes get targeted down at this point, and after honestly 2 really, oh, is this an Artosis pile? No, it's not quite. There's a pile on the left side. It's not gonna be the end of the world, but it's still gonna depower some things. After a couple games that were truly really good. Those first 2 games were excellent, and Trigger should have gone up 2-0. Last game was okay. He just made a couple mistakes. In this game, he's fallen apart. This game, he's equal on economy against an aggressive Terran. He's down in army supply. He's got shield battery. He's got not shield battery overcharge. He's got a extended thermal lance. He's got Colossus. He's got High Templar. He's getting ready for a push, I guess. So maybe that's the Protoscopium. If he's able to hold on to this. If he's able to hold on to this push, maybe that's how he swings things back. But a lot, 10 supplies on the left side. which is not that bad of an idea, to be totally honest. You want to go and Raven's not going to get as much done this time, but it's already done its damage. If he can force, oh no, he's going to find a bunch of Widow Mines, and now he's going to find another Widow Mine. Everything's going from bad to worse here. Widow Mines on the front lines as well get damage done to the Stalkers, and I guess Bunny's not going to be able to poke through this, but he's going to get an Archon, and he's going to shut a Colossus down. And that run by didn't get anything. It didn't force the Terran back in the slightest. Bright side, it's 2 Colossus. They haven't gone down. There's a third one on the way. Raven used its energy, but it's got plenty more. It's got tons more, and now Bunny's cutting the rocks down. He's buying time. He's building an attack path through the middle of the map. So, I've loved Trigger's series, but at this point, it's going to be very hard for him to find his way back into it. Bunny has put himself in really a strong position. It's not impossible. Comebacks can happen. But it's going to have to be just an incredible one here. The 4th base doesn't even go down. Now, Blinks on top knocks the Raven down, but it gets the spells off in time. 2 Colossus they can't fight. Stalkers take damage as well. And maybe there was a world where Trigger took this fight with 3 Colossus. Now with, well, I guess 3 can fight. The damage, yeah, there we go. Viking Shot gets the last one with only 2 Colossus here, and the army, it's 29 army supply to 74 guys. Bunny seems like he's destined to qualify at this point. And Bio's going to stem on top. This Colossus will fall down. Trigger's not, his eye is not in the right spot. Last Colossus is dead, and it's just Bio. It's just Bio against gateway units. EMPs, they don't even need to hit everything, but they will. Trigger does not, sorry, Bunny qualifies. He moves on to Katowice. Trigger's going to have to try through the lower bracket, but what a game to end on. Oh, that's unfortunate for Trigger.